Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name is Vormithrax, and we're going to do something a little different. Instead of Cataclysm, which most of you know me by, we're going to play some Unity of Command 2. I'm not sure of the sound balance on this one yet, so let me make an adjustment here. Not sure I can turn this down any lower. It's either that sound or... right there, maybe. Alright, let me know in the sound balance if it's too loud. Not loud enough, any of that stuff. But yeah, Unity of Command 2, Army Man's game from 2x2 games. I have played Unity of Command 1 quite a long time ago. I didn't play a lot of it. I got a little frustrated with the puzzle-ish nature of the gameplay, and it wasn't quite what I was expecting. So I bailed out of that one, but this one seems to be a little differently tailored and given some freedom to the player, and I like it so far. So I wanted to go ahead and play it on this channel, see what kind of reception we get, and if you guys enjoy the content, we will continue our way through the campaign. I have played the first few missions to get familiar with the basics of the gameplay and the interface and such. After that, though, it'll be all new to me, so we'll see just what we can accomplish. It is a divisional level war game, so with war games, it's kind of tricky, especially for me personally. Some I find way too fiddly and dry, others... They're just not enough details, so I think it comes down to a lot of personal preference in how people react to various war games in regards to both the graphics that are presented to the player as well as the level of abstraction, what is included or not included, what's kind of modeled behind the scenes versus what's available to the player for direct control. So hopefully, with the campaign playthrough we're going to do right now, give you some kind of an idea of what is offered, and you can make your own decisions. So what we're going to do is the campaign. There are some scenarios as well. We've got the Victory in the West campaign. It starts in North Africa, works its way up the Italian peninsula, and then into mainland Europe. So that's what we're going to be doing. There are these other scenarios that we can play as one-offs, but I'm just going to stick with the campaign for now. So we're going to go with Victory in the West, and we're going to pick normal difficulty. There is a bit of a difference, and it actually shows you right on the choice what the changes are going to be. Mostly in regards to, it's not AI difficulty, really. It's advantages the player gets or disadvantages that he suffers. It has a lot to do with the number of turns that you have in order to capture various objectives. Harder difficulties, you're given less time to do so. You get less prestige for captures to reinforce your units, less cards available to give special options and abilities, things like that. We're going to go with normal, though, and say OK. Get rid of the current one. Give it a second to load, and we'll jump right in. 1943 Europe. I don't know how much of all the flavor text I'll actually read through. We'll let the little intro here play out. Alright, final battles in North Africa begin. That's where we come in. Okay, so I'm not going to explain all the nuts and bolts of the gameplay. I'll try to give some general info as I can. I'm pretty new to the game myself as well, so I may stutter in some of the explanations. But what we're looking at here is the strategic map, and we are in a between campaign conference, and during this period we have access to a number of cards that we will have available to us during the upcoming campaign, and the campaign's broken up into kind of chunks. Right now we've got the North Africa series where we've got 2 missions in North Africa and 1 in, I believe, Sicily, and that's going to be the first section. So we're going to have another conference where we'll be able to do some similar things once we complete those first 3. So right now I'm being given an option of a card that I can add to my deck, or cards. We have Prestige, 150 points. We use Prestige during this period to purchase cards to upgrade our headquarters units, and during actual gameplay, we use it for reinforcing our units, adding specialist steps, things like that. You'll see that once we get into the gameplay. So this first card is free. I can choose it without having to spend any kind of prestige. It's going to give us a QE class, naval bombardment. Let us basically do 3 extra naval bombardment shots in a particular scenario. Not too useful in our first section because we're not going to get too many of those opportunities. The other ones we have to pay for, and you can see the numbers in the bottom right corner. The first number is how much I have to pay to own it, to get it now. The other number is how much it will sell back for at a later date. If I no longer want it, I can return it for 16 prestige payback on it. So I'm going to go ahead and take the free one. We are limited in how many cards we can have, and we're going to gain cards during the campaign as well. Capturing certain objectives within the time limit is going to allow us or reward us with cards as well. So we're going to try to rely on those reward cards as much as we can. I'm not going to buy any of the other cards, so we'll turn that section off. And now we're going to take a look at a few other things. So we have our map. We can zoom into the Mediterranean area here, and you can see the 3 different battles that are part of this campaign section. We're going to start here and work our way north, but let's go back to the strategic map and talk about this over here. So we have 2 headquarters units. We have the US 11th and the British 8th. The units in the game and the headquarters in the game do carry over mission to mission, so upgrades that you apply to your headquarters units to give them additional operational abilities, as well as strengthening reinforcement steps or specialists that you add to your divisional units, do carry over. So you do want to conserve the strength of your units as much as possible, so that you can save your prestige for important upgrades, and you don't have to spend a huge amount of it recovering your units after combat. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. So we've clicked on the US 11th, and this screen is showing us their current status and what abilities they offer to our units. At the top, we have range and movement. This is their movement ability and also the range with which they can affect their attached units. Basically, you want to keep your headquarters units essentially somewhat to your main units that are attached to it, of course, without putting it in danger of getting overrun. But they have range limits, so we can spend 25 prestige to upgrade this to 11. We can also upgrade these different categories. There's a force pool section, intel, operations, logistics, and engineering. I'm not going to go into all of these in detail, but during combat, if a unit of ours is in range of the HQ can issue abilities or special orders that fall under these categories. So as an example, the operations section here is pretty important, because it offers the ability to provide suppressive fire or to give a no retreat command. If we upgrade it for 50 prestige, we can do a feint attack, we can do a set piece attack, and we can do a rear guard action with our units. So each of these categories has very specific abilities, and we'll kind of talk about them as we go through. I'm actually not going to buy any upgrades for the US 2nd Corps here. So let's go ahead and go to the British 8th, take a look at it. It's organized differently. They've got actually different set of abilities. It's the same abilities, just organized differently. So they actually already have this middle section with the feint attack, the set piece, and the rear guard. And if I flip between them, notice like right here, they're very different in how they're organized. And that's just down to the nationalities. So I'm going to leave these alone. I'm going to keep my full 150 prestige for this first section. I'm not going to buy any of these upgrades. We're just going to try to muddle through as we can. I'd rather use this prestige to increase the abilities and the strength of our actual units in combat this first section through. And we'll get an opportunity to do some upgrades as rewards when the headquarters level up. They actually gain XP if they're in range of the units they're supporting when those units kill enemy units, rout enemy units, capture prisoners, things like that. Another good reason to make sure that you keep your headquarters unit in range of their attached combat units. So as the headquarters levels up, you'll have the opportunity to level up these abilities as well. So that's one option we have, and then the card option. That's pretty much all we do on this screen. So we've got Victory in the West. You're hereby designated as Supreme Allied Commander. You will enter the continent of Europe, and in conjunction with the United Nations, undertake operations aimed at the heart of Nazi Germany and her allies. All right, so we're going to end the conference. Then we're going to pick Wadi, Wadi Akarat. There will be many, many mispronunciations. So have sympathy, bear with me. I will mispronounce many, many words. All right. We're going to select that, and it says, while U.S. forces have been halted near El Ghatar and Magnassi, the British 8th Army has broken through the Marath defensive line. Only the Wadi Akarat stands in the way of Montgomery's forces breaking into open terrain. In the air, the Allies have gained the upper hand, and at sea, precious few Axis supply ships arrive intact in Tunisia. Start scenario. Hey there, Eldraine. Yeah, it's a pretty strange-looking cataclysm. Cataclysm of a different type. Alright, so our forces are converging towards a link-up in central Tunisia. U.S. 2nd Corps and British 1st Army are to try and force the passes of eastern dorsal range and then cut off the Axis line of retreat from Wadi Akarat. Be wary of overextending your forces, though. At this stage in the Desert War, there is no need for unnecessary risks. Alright, that still sounds a little loud to me. Let's go back into options, back into audio. Let's move this down just a little bit. Alright, so here we go. So we do have zoom controls. We've got all sorts of controls. The scenario or the situation is this. We've got a pocket of German units, mostly mechanized, but a few infantry, that are holding back our forces in the south. They control the eastern side, and what we're trying to do is achieve these objectives. So Wadi Akarat, the objectives are Sfax and Enfidaville are our primary objectives. These are the two must-dos. Sfax and Enfidaville, and it says here what turn we must achieve them by to get the maximum prestige reward. And that's what these numbers represent. So if we do capture Sfax by turn 4, we'll get 50 prestige, and same with Enfidaville. Now with the primary objectives, you can capture them later, but the reward is going to decrease as time goes by. And there is an overall limit of 9 turns to the entire engagement. So we can't go further than 9 turns. But ideally, we're going to capture everything within the time limits if we possibly can. So Enfidaville is way up here in the north, and you can see the star there indicating it's a primary objective. And then we've got Sfax on the east coast right there. So we're going to try to capture Sfax with our troops from the south, and then we're going to roll everybody up if we get the opportunity and try to capture Enfidaville. There's a few units located in the middle section here, and of course other units that we cannot see or haven't identified yet. We also have these bonus secondary objectives, and they're shown with these plus symbols in the name. So the Fade Pass, the Fonduk Pass, Kairuin. I think that's it. One more. Magnassi Pass right there. So we've got to capture 3 passes as well as Kairuin. And there are turn limits on each, so it's important to look at your scenario, look at your force units, where they're located, what your turn limits are, so you can make some decisions on how you're going to go about achieving those within each time limit. Now, the bonus objectives, they're hard set. You either make it by that turn or they just disappear. They're just gone. And there are different rewards for winning depending on what these symbols are. So some will give you a card, some will give you a headquarters upgrade, some will give you a new unit or a specialist strength step that you can add to your army units. Things like that. So it varies based on the scenario and the person who designed it, what rewards they'd like you to have. So, like I said, I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of everything about the mechanics. There's a lot, and there is a nice manual that you can go through with complete details on all of it. But in general, what I'm going to try to do, zoom out a little further so we can see a little more right there. All right, so in general, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to use this southern force. I'm going to try to punch my way through these guys in the south. There is a space right here that is impassable terrain. So within this mountain range area here, this is all impassable down here as well. So there's 2 spaces here. There's these spaces and these spaces. This is blocking a good portion of the retreat path. So what we're going to try to do is I'm going to roll this tank up this way to assist, and they're going to try to punch through here to control this section. These guys are going to try to punch through, and we're going to try to pocket all the units that are inside this area. I'm just going to pocket them, and I'm going to starve them out, basically. I'm going to try as little as possible to engage them in combat, and I'm just going to push through with the artillery or the armor, roll the infantry up behind. That'll cut these guys off from supply, and then I'll starve them out. It does take a few turns to starve them out, but we'll have time. because my goals are just to reach these objectives. My goals aren't necessarily to kill everything, but I will get more XP for my units and such if I manage to do that. But I'm going to let time and lack of supply do as much damage as I can to keep my units intact. So we're going to try to maximize some of the strengths of these units to punch through, get these armor units up here, and we're going to try to seal this off on turn 1. It's hard to do. There are some random variables that can occur regarding retreats and overruns that it may or may not work out for us. But we're going to try to do it at least by turn 2 and try to keep as many of these armored units especially in the pocket as possible. And then we'll just stream right on past with our armored units. And the armor is going to race north and assist my northern units in taking the rest of the objectives. So we do have some other individual goals. We've got the Fade Pass, and that one's turn 4. We've got McNasty Pass, which we're going to take pretty quickly. That one's only by turn 3. And then Fun Duke Pass is actually the one that I had the most problem with in my first run through, also by turn 3. So we've got 2 turn 3s that we got to get right away. And we got an alternate on turn 4, a primary on turn 4, and then the alternate turn 5 and the primary turn 7. So you'll see how it rolls. But generally speaking, that's what we're going to try to do. So first thing I'm going to do is reset my supply points and my headquarters units. Right now, we're in a before combat prepare for battle phase. There's only a couple things you can do in this phase, and the 2 things I'm going to do. First, I'm going to reduce these, I'm going to reduce these supply points. I'm going to reset them to different locations. Supply is a huge part of the game. So all I've done is I've removed all the supply points they preset, because I feel I can put them in better locations. I'm going to redeploy them now. We're going to put one here with 2 points to it. We're going to put one here with 2 points to it. And then we're going to put one... Where do I usually put this one? There were 2 up here earlier, but I can get away with just 1 if I'm careful to make sure they don't cut my line of supply off. I usually put it somewhere along this road. Let's go ahead and put it right there. And we're going to give that one 3. I think that covers everybody. So that will come all the way down here to cover these units, pushing through the pass. I've got one here to cover these. Couple of units are going to stay here to guard this and to start punching at these armor units. And this main one will also hold all of my primary units that are on the line against the Germans up here. And that'll leave me 3 points. That's what this is indicating. This is your supply network options. These are supply depots, and supply spreads outward from the depot with various movement rules and range rules that I'm not going to go into. But as I increase, you can see that's 1 supply point in that depot, 2 supply points, 3 supply points, and so on. It'll go up to 5 as the maximum. I'm just going to leave it at 2. Leave it at 3, and then that'll leave me 3 in reserve that I can use to set up new supply points later as we start pushing into German territory. We'll need to either extend our supply lines or make sure we keep our units on road or rail networks where the supply naturally continues to flow. So that's step 1. We've got our supply reoriented. And before I move my headquarters units, here's another really important step. And I'm not sure a lot of people that start playing this understand you can do this. But if I click on the headquarters unit right here, you get a little interface down here. These are those abilities that we had the option to purchase and or upgrade earlier. And we've got a few options. A thing that the headquarters can do is we have 6 command points with which we can spend to use these abilities each round. And at this beginning phase, we can use these command points to move strength and specialist units between our existing units. It's going to take points to do it, so I can't rearrange my entire army, but we can take certain special units, move them around to help us punch through these guys that I'm going to try to punch through, to reinforce this, to make sure I get this guy to retreat, and so on. So there's certain very, very critical points that you want to make sure you would focus as much power into as you can, and this is your opportunity to do that. If you just roll with what you got, you're not going to have nearly as much success as if you use this opportunity to actually strengthen certain units in certain places. So let's see. We're going to start over here just for an example. So I do need to talk a little bit about the units. So if I click on a unit, we've got a big detail screen up here. It's the 9th U.S. Infantry Division. The yellow dots are their strength in rough points. They're called steps of strength. And U.S. units are maxed at 6. German units max at 7. It just depends on the nationality a bit. So 6 strength points, but then they've also got these little symbols, which are specialist attachments. And they each provide different special bonuses. So you can see here what the specialist attachments are doing. So the blue chevron, the M10, is giving us extra attack, extra defense, and some armor points. Whereas the purple symbol is giving us some defense as well as some artillery. So that's actually an artillery unit that's been attached to this infantry division. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the artillery. I'm going to consolidate it on one unit. So I'm going to take this person's, and we're going to reorganize. Oops. We're going to reorganize. We're going to take away the 105mm M2A1 howitzers. And we're just going to shift them over to this unit. Oh, he's already full. He can't take that one. Let's grab... No, that's fine, actually. We'll go ahead and give it to the artillery, or the tank unit to make it stronger. Alright. So these guys are pretty well set. I don't need to do much change there. So we've just shifted one using the US HQ. So we've used one of the 4 points available to us. I don't really need to change much else, but I am going to... Let's see. Where do I want to spend the points? This is where I have an opportunity to spend my prestige points also. I want to make sure I spend the prestige points in other places first. So here's another thing to show, actually. If I click on the HQ, notice the white border? That is the range with which its attached units need to stay inside of. That's its control range. And it also shows white circles underneath the units that are attached to it. So these 3 units are attached to that headquarters unit. If I click on a unit, it shows which headquarters it's attached to. If I click on that unit, you can see it's attached to this headquarters. But this one is attached to that headquarters, and so on. So not getting your units all split up in the heat of battle while you're racing your tanks around is pretty important and somewhat difficult to actually manage. Alright. Yeah, I don't have a lot of strength I need to move between these guys. I think I'm gonna change this. You're not gonna get to attack in the first round anyway. Let's go ahead and give that to you. I don't like that these menus are so floaty. There we go. Alright, we added the utility, or the strength point to that, and we're also going to just give it a general armor step upgrade. So it's going to cost me 15 of my 150 prestige. It's going to change this from a 5-step strength to a 6-step, which is the maximum it can have. And then you can have a maximum of 3 specialist additions. I'm going to add a Greyhound unit to it. That is now as strong as I can make it. So it's got 6 strength steps, it's got 3 specialist steps. And the reason for the Greyhound is this section. So it gives a little bit of attack, defense, and armor. But more importantly, it's the first thing killed if this unit takes a kill hit. So if we get into combat and a kill damage result occurs, the Greyhound will get taken first. And it's cheaper to replace than the armor strength point would be. So it actually saves me prestige, because I can replace the Greyhound for 15, but the strength step I would normally lose would cost me 30. 25 or 30. So we're going to put a Greyhound unit in front. They're kind of a screening unit, and they take the first hit, basically. So we've strengthened that as much as possible. This is to make sure we try to push this unit out of McNassie Pass, preferably force them to retreat, and hopefully we get an overrun, and we can actually move forward and capture this space, because that cuts off one of the lines of retreat for the pocketed units. Whether it happens or not, it's down to luck. I can only strengthen this so much, and that's the only unit that's going to be able to get involved in this first fight. He's going to help, but it's going to be a second turn help, unfortunately. So we'll give him a strength step, and a Greyhound as well. We're down to 90 points, which is getting tight. Alright, what else do we want to do? We're going to move you guys. Let's see, these are British, that's Free French, that's US. That's also British. Let's see. Alright, we're going to bring them into the main battle here. I'm going to take these guys. We're going to remove the 25-pounder and shuffle it over to this group. And I think that is it for that group. They're already full strength. This tank's going to come down and assist in clearing up Fade Pass, and then it's going to try to roll around to then assist in the assault on Fonduke Pass. So ideally, we push that guy out immediately, and then turn 2, we can roll up and we can start trying to assault Fonduke Pass. These guys are all dug in. The little shovel symbol indicates an entrenchment level. The little stone blocks indicates a full-on entrenchment versus a partial. So they're hard to dig out, and we're going to try to starve them out as much as possible again. Alright, so we don't have a lot of movement I need to do over here. Most of my strength I'm going to save for the southern fight. These guys are mostly going to do a holding action, with the sole exception of taking Fonduke Pass. But otherwise, they're going to hold until they get reinforcements from the south. So he's as strong as I want to make him. The rest of these guys are just going to hold. I can only transfer units between similar nationalities, so can't transfer British units to the U.S. infantry, even though the U.S. is attached to this British headquarters unit. There's not as much as I can do there. Alright, so we're not going to transfer anything else there. Let's focus down here. So this is the big one. This is the tough one. We got 4 entrenched infantry units. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to punch this guy out, move into the space, hit either of these 2, depending on which I have better odds on, because I want to, ideally, like I said, grab that, one of these 2, and then these. And that will pocket this entire group. How it works out, we'll see. It's a little tricky. So, starting out, let's, who do we take? We're going to take your points. We're going to grab your 25-pounder and hand it off to those guys. Then we're going to take also your 17-pounder and give it to these guys. We're also going to increase their step, so we're going to move them from a 5 to a 6 step. Only costs 5 for the infantry. You're also going to get bumped. We're down to 80 points. Alright, we need to strengthen our tanks as much as possible. So we've got an elite 7th British Armored. We've got a veteran and a veteran. Let's go. Maximize his armor steps and give him 65 points. That's not going to be much. I personally feel it's better to have single super-powered units. So concentrate your points is what I usually try to do. This guy has no specialist steps whatsoever. I mean, I could spend all the points just getting this guy the specialist steps. I'd like at least one other tank to have all the steps down to 50, so let's split it. This is the equivalent of the Greyhound that we bought earlier. It's the one that takes the hit first. Alright, I'm going to stop there. We're going to keep 20 points just for reserves. During the combat, when we get rewards, sometimes it'll ask us to pay for an upgrade. I need to retain a little bit of prestige for that. So I think that's what we're going to do. Alright, let's move the headquarters unit. That's the last thing we can do. You got to wait until you've done everything else before you move it, because as soon as you do, you're going to lose your available points. So I'm going to move the headquarters unit right up to the front line, and you can see it zeroed out the mission, or the points. We're going to move this headquarters unit just up to there, and we're going to move the British headquarters unit right up here. And we're all set. Alright. A lot of talking. It goes faster when you're doing it yourself and you know what you're doing. But we are prepared. Let's see what happens. Alright, so we're in the very first turn, and this is where it's going to get a little ugly. Let me talk about a couple other things real quick before we get started. So there's a few other elements on the screen that you might need to know about. At the top, of course, we got the obvious stuff. The turn and date, how much prestige I have, next unit, skip unit, and so on. Our supply percent. How to explain supply? All right, let's do a brief supply talk. So I showed you earlier about these supply dumps, and you can see where they're extending their supply to. Notice a little bar, and it has this little tick of red in it, and there's actually more red here, even more red here, for example. What that represents is that any unit that's within this border and has any kind of a bar is going to get supplied, full supply. With the exception that this little bar indicates a percentage chance that that unit won't actually receive supply that round. So if it's a full bar like these, guaranteed supply. Nothing's going to interrupt the supply to get to that location. But the bigger the bar is, the bigger the randomized chance that that unit won't receive supply just randomly due to bad terrain, trucks broke down, weather, whatever. So some scenarios have worse terrain or supply restrictions where even though you have a supply dump, you might only have a half a bar just one space away from the supply dump. So it varies. We got pretty good supply, pretty good weather in this one. So there's a very small chance our units won't get supply. A unit without supply has escalating issues the longer it's without supply. So it's very important to move your supply dumps forward, generate new ones, keep your units along roads and or railways. So you got to really carefully look at the railway networks that are available. And there are supply points where supply comes in from off screen. So you notice Tabessa over here. If I turn on the supply, it's showing that is a supply generation point, and supply is flowing outward from there, primarily along the rail network. So keeping the enemy units from cutting off your supply is critical. So if an enemy unit just drove real fast up to here, that would cut off my effective supply to this entire area. So very, very important not to let any enemy units get into your rear. All they have to do is just drive up onto a space. Don't capture anything, nothing. If their zone of control breaks your line of supply, you could be in pretty big trouble if you can't fix it right away. There are other ways of getting supply to units that are forward of your operational lines. There are cards that will do it. There are headquarters abilities that will do it. So there are options that you can plan on depending on what you're doing. But that's basically what supply is. Now, I have 3 available trucks that I can set up supply depots. I could either extend supply in an existing location or set up a new one. And these other numbers represent supply available in future turns. So if I get a supply truck or a supply dump overrun, it's not going to be available. Those points won't be returned to me until 4 turns go by. It'll show a number here. So this represents turns in the future where you will have additional supply trucks available. I'm not going to worry about this stuff. You know about the victory conditions. These are quick shortcuts to my headquarters units. It'll highlight each headquarters unit. And these are the cards I've got currently available to me. This is useless in this particular one. I have no... Well, I assume it is. Maybe it'll generate boats off the coast. I've never tried using it in this particular scenario without an obvious naval presence. So, and that's about it for the interface. This is showing the menu for the headquarters unit. These are the special abilities available for that headquarters unit that a unit can take advantage of. And these are the reorg abilities. I'm not going to worry about the rest for now. Let's just fight army mans. All right, so where do we want to start? This is the big important one. Let's do the easy ones first. This will give a little better idea. So we got some mechanized units we're hoping to trap inside this pocket. These units are going to try to keep them here. In the test game I played, these weren't too active in trying to engage these units because they've got such good terrain that they're in. But what we're going to do... Oh, I did these in reverse. I did them in the wrong order. Oh, well. I should have stacked this one with the artillery instead of the other way around. Let's... Alright, so combat. Let me do this. So, when you select a unit, if you highlight enemy units nearby, you'll see the odds. The number you see is friendly casualties, enemy casualties. So if I try to attack that, I'm going to likely lose 5 strength points. They're going to lose 0 strength points. That's what that represents. On this one, it's 4 and 0 with a little 1 in the bottom right corner. The 1 indicates I'll probably suppress an enemy strength point, which is a temporary reduction in its strength, but it'll get that back if it stays in supply. And then up in the upper right, you can see the detailed breakdown of the combat. So it shows all the stats, all the modifiers, and so on. It's right here. I can't point at it while I'm highlighting. But you can see things like in red on the right, it's showing different -1 indicators. That is terrain modifiers, weather modifiers, experience modifiers, like rookie units going up against elite units, all sorts of different modifiers. And the game uses old school grognard combat templates where you have columns and rows that you match up odds against to get unit loss conditions and such. And there's shifts in those columns. Anybody's familiar with the old style tabletop war games knows what I'm talking about when we're doing step shifts and combat odds and modifiers and so on. But it's done in such a way that it's fairly intuitive once you get a little grok of the underpinning mechanics, and it works really well and really quickly. So this obviously would be really bad. This would be terrible for us. But we have a headquarters unit nearby, and we have access to some special abilities, one of which is suppressive fire. Order a unit to attack using its artillery only. The unit takes little or no losses. So if I select that, now you can see it says 0-0 with 2. That means nobody's going to take actual strength full point losses, and I'm going to suppress 2 of his 3 strength points. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and suppressive fire him. We got the exact results that it predicted. It is a prediction, not a guarantee. You will have variances based on random die rolls, but it did reduce 2 of his strength points. Those are temporary losses. They're no longer factoring into his ability to fight. So now he's an easier target for my other unit to try to hit. Notice the blue outline. I can still move after I do this particular action. It's really important to know which actions allow you to move after you use the ability. Some will, some won't, and you'll just have to kind of learn which ones do and which ones don't, or read very carefully the different abilities that are available. But with this one, I can now move. And I'm actually going to move this guy up onto the hilltop here so the infantry can take maximum advantage of the terrain. And he's now done. He's finished all of his abilities. He can't move, he can't attack, he's got nothing else he's allowed to do currently. We're going to follow up with an attack from the next unit. This is, what, the 9th U.S. Infantry Division? And now if we try to attack, we've still got pretty bad odds. 3-0 with 1. That's still terrible odds. So let's not do that. We don't have enough... We don't have any artillery units with him, so we can't suppressive fire. This guy had the artillery specialist unit, which is what allowed him to suppressive fire. So we don't have too many options here to really help this fight out. We could bring the tank forward, or I can bring the tank up to assist up here next round. I'm going to move the tank up here. I'm just going to let these guys sit. They're just going to sit on their hilltops. They're really just here to kind of keep these guys in the area and hopefully keep their attention. So... as you can see, movement-wise, I've got this orange outline, and the number right here, 0, indicates how many movement points I'll have remaining if I go to that spot. So if I go here, I have 1, and then here I have 0. So that's indicating how many points it's going to cost me. I can also use the mouse wheel or the space bar to increase the movement. That's the blue outline. But if I do that, I will no longer be able to attack. So I can use up my attack point in order to move a couple spaces further, but I won't be able to fire or go on offensive action if I do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to move right up into the McNassie Pass to support this other unit. Alright, so we're done down here. We've done all that. Let's move up north and do that next. I'm going to shift these guys south. I'm going to move these guys, let's see, you are going to move to here. You are going to move to there, and you're coming in here. No, you squat on your mountain. Our goal is just to keep these forces in place. They're entrenched. They're not likely to move. They don't want to lose their defensive bonus. They think they're defending Karuan, but they're going to find out that's not actually what's happening here. So that's all I'm going to do with these guys for this turn. We're just relocating them. I'm not actually going to fight with anybody. If I tried, as an example, 5-0, I lose 5 actual full strength points, which would be horrendously expensive to replace, and they take no losses. And that's because if you look in the upper right there, I've only got 12 points of strength against their 15 combined strength points, plus they're on a hill for -1 column shift, plus I'm attacking across water, which is -2, plus they're dug in, which is -1. So if you imagine a chart where you've got columns and rows, you compare the strength of each unit on the vertices, you find your point, and then you take those numbers, those -1, -2, and then you just shift in whichever direction is appropriate. So if you're doing shifts before or against the attacker, for example, So you can imagine it makes for horrendous changes in the strength outlook when you've got a whole bunch of different shifts occurring. It's a massive difference. So you got to minimize those shifts as much as possible. Because even though you might have more raw power than the enemy unit, if he's got 6 column shifts, then you're just not going to have any chance of actually getting him out of that square. So we're not going to do anything else this turn. We're not going to suppressive fire. There's no point to it. We've already moved the units, which removed a lot of our ability to do any of those special abilities. So they're in their position. Next turn, they'll start to get to do things. We are going to bring the tank unit up, though. He's coming up right here. Puts him just barely in range of the unit. And retained his ability to attack. So we're going in with 37 strength points against 17 total. We've got a bunch of modifiers on our side. We're more experienced than them, apparently. We've also got an artillery shift bonus. They're dug in and they're on a hill, so they get those advantages. But we're actually getting a total shift improvement over them. So they're forecast to lose 2 units, and almost more importantly, if you look at the very bottom right corner of that info screen over here, that's a really important part to look at. They've got a 50% chance to retreat from that space, regardless of what the actual outcome is. So tank units are incredibly powerful because they can cause retreats and overrun. Overrun lets you move and then attack again, and we're going to try to take advantage of that as much as we can. But we're going to go ahead and do this fight. So we actually got pretty good outcome, and exactly what I thought would happen happened, with the exception that we actually did take a strength pointed damage, and we lost our Greyhound unit. Remember that one where I said if we took a killing blow, a killing damage point, the Greyhound would take it? Well, he took it. So we didn't get the retreat, though. We failed on the 50% retreat, so that's unfortunate. I really hope these guys are strong. Oh, crap. Oh, that's not good. I think that's what I usually do with my other points, is I strengthen this unit to try to make sure I get a push out of here. So, do I trade 1-to-1 with a 30% retreat chance? He's going to die if we actually get the 1. So the 30% retreat, assuming we actually do get a 1-to-1 trade. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Ah, look at that. We took 2-to-1. That sucks. Alright, so what happened there is we took Fade Pass. That shows yellow now to say that we took it, and we were rewarded with some prestige as well as a transport card. The support card that I can use to add an extra supply truck to our supply, or with certain abilities in our headquarters, we can use it to give extra movement ability to a group of units. We're not going to use that right now. We do continue to have movement, and this right here indicates that there are fleeing units from the German unit that we fought. They're heading back towards a supply dump or a headquarters unit, and then they'll get reorganized back into strength points. So if we can capture those, it's good. I don't have movement on him. We move this guy forward. He's almost guaranteed to get wiped, but he's already down to such a low point. They're veterans. I'd hate to lose the veteran unit. We'll go ahead and do it, though. All right. So we're in range of the headquarters. So the headquarters actually gained XP from some of our exploits. I'm trying to remember, does it show? Yeah, that's XP earned there. We got extra intel also. We learned where 3 enemy units are located. By capturing prisoners, when you hit a certain number, I forget where they show it, but when you hit a certain number of prisoners captured, you get intel on, so we can see there's an infantry unit here, an infantry unit there. And I guess that one is the other one that showed. All right. And I'm strongly thinking of pulling back a space. That's a mountain space versus an open. Oh yeah, let's get back in the mountain space at least so we can get the mountain terrain bonus. All right. So we accomplished what we needed to. We got Fade Pass. So you can see here it's been marked off. Take by turn 4. Accomplished. Like I said, this is the one I typically have problems with because it's hard to get a good attack on it. It's got river around it on multiple sides and a lot of dug-in units. So this is the one I worry about. I really want it, but it's the one I worry most about. All right, let's move down south further. Next one. This is the only one we can attack with here. So look at this right side again. A lot of combat info, but we overwhelmingly are strength over him, 37 and 6. So what's that, 43 to 20? So more than a 2-to-1 raw strength odds. And then we've got 7 shifts versus 2. So that gives us 5 shifts in our favor. So hugely in our favor. We're supposedly not going to lose anything. He's going to almost get destroyed. Plus, we have a 90% chance of forcing him to retreat off of the McNasty Pass, and a 50% chance of getting an overrun, which means we'll be able to move and attack again. Alright, good. So he suppressed my Greyhound unit, the unit I set up to take the first hit, which is fine. We'll get that suppression point back. We did not get a retreat. How did we not get a retreat? 90%. Oh, Cataclysm RNG follows me everywhere. Neither did we get an overrun. I failed at 90% and 50%. I can still move around him. That's another important point to understand, is this unit now has a little minus symbol. It's below 3 strength points, and that shows that it's weakened. Weakened units, as it says here as well, no longer provide zone of control to movement. So because I didn't move this guy, he's got his full movement points available to him. I can actually get him to this point. Doesn't quite get him where I needed, though. That's why I needed this guy to retreat. Yeah, God, I hate that. That was the worst possible thing. That's the one roll that I wanted in my favor, and we just got really, really hosed on that one. I failed at the retreat, 90% chance, and I failed at the overrun, 50% chance. And this guy can't attack, so we fast traveled him up here, so I've got nothing else I can hit this with. Now, I do have one other option, so before I move, I'm gonna pause doing this one, because we have these little symbols here I haven't talked about. So depending on the scenario that you're in, you're going to have different theater assets available to you. In this particular engagement, in this theater, I have 1 air attack I can initiate per turn, and that's it. 1 use left in this turn. So once per turn, I can do an air attack. Target a visible enemy unit not in the fog of war with an air attack following shift supply to air attack results. So it's -1 if the weather is mud or snow, -1 if it's in a mountain, forest, or city, -1 if it's entrenched or fortified, and +1 if it's a green unit. This unit is not green, it's veteran, and it's in hills. These are mountains, these are hills, so we'd still get... Yeah, it's only mountain, so we're okay there. He's not fortified. So I've actually got a fair chance of destroying that with my air attack. Yeah, mostly this suppresses points, not does damage. So I got absolutely nothing else I'm going to be able to get to here to try to kill this, unfortunately. So I have an opportunity to attack it, but I fear it's just going to suppress the point and not really accomplish anything. My alternative is I can use it on something down here to help with our main push in the south. Because we're done everywhere else. As soon as I make my decision here, and I can come back to it, I can do a couple of things here and then make my decision. Which is, I think, what I'm going to do. So we're going to hold off on moving this unit until I finalize on this. So this other thing is an air recon. Basically, if I click this, I can pick up space, and it'll show me a symbol for any enemy units within that area. So let's go ahead and drop one here. Let's drop one. Not really gonna matter. Let's actually, I think these are the known ones. I'm trying to remember which one's which. Yeah, let's go ahead and hit this. Alright, yeah. I already knew about most of those because we had gotten prisoners and such, so... Alright. So we're out of that for now. We've got 2 more uses of that in this campaign, but I'm not going to use that too much. We're going to know where everything's at pretty quickly. Alright, let's get to the big fight. This is the big important one. And it's all going to come down to pretty much this first strike. So, I'm going to go for this guy. He is, unfortunately, an elite unit. These guys are veterans, but I can bring more force to bear on this guy. They're both entrenched, so... That's who we're going to go after. We're going to start with this unit. We've got, we doubled up the artillery, so we've got a bunch of artillery on this one. We're going to go first with checking a suppressive attack. So, no damage, 0-0, but 4 suppressed strength steps. So, we're going to almost entirely suppress that unit if we do a suppressive fire. Now, the other important one is this set piece attack. Set piece attack is a little different. So, if you read it, it says, order a unit to methodically attack an enemy position, reducing its entrenchment. Requirements, unit not weak or green, unit must be in supply. This is my requirements to be able to do it. The action spends all of the attacker's movement points and action point. It also removes all of its own entrenchment. I'm not entrenched, so I don't care, but the important part is that thing where it says it removes all of the movement points and action points. So if I do this, that unit is then done and can't get out of this space. So that's the difference between, one of the differences between the suppressive fire. Suppressive fire, you retain your movement point. It uses your action point, but not your movement point. So very important distinction to understand between those two. The benefit to the set piece attack, though, is it will remove their entrenchment values, especially if you have engineering units attached. You get better results with engineer units attached. We're not going to do that one. We're just going to go ahead and suppressive fire. That'll allow me then to back these guys out of this space, bring somebody else up, and continue the attack. So we're going to suppressive fire. This fight is going horribly, horribly, horribly. I got half of what I should have gotten. We got 2. 2 out of 4. Oh, RNG, you are so fickle. All right. And we're 1-to-1 on that one, huh? With a 30% retreat chance. Oh, man. Well, we got our points back. I got less than I should have out of this one. I got more than I should have out of that one. All right, so both of these units still have their movement points. We can retreat them. Now, they did not retreat this unit, so we're still slightly screwed. I needed to get a retreat off of them, because now I'm going to have to move a unit up and strike it, make it retreat, hope we get an overrun and keep moving. Because what happens is we're going to get bogged down with units that are in place that I can't move, and that's then going to stop my advance as soon as that happens. So we got to pull these guys out. Let's move. Let's see. Who should we move first? Who am I bringing up? I got to bring up my strong tanks first. So those are basically equal with him being an elite. He can get to here, and you can see we're going to get a 0 out of 3 result, but I can't see what the combat retreat and overrun chances are until I move up. Let's go you back to here. Bring the elite unit up. So 90 and 50 again. That's the best you can get. 90 and 50. So we had better get at least a retreat. If not, hopefully an overrun this time. Alright, so we got the retreat and we got the overrun. Awesome, that's what I needed. Now I have to make a decision, though. So we've got 1 movement point. If I move the tank up and I do an attack, you can see we got good odds. We're getting 0-2 results, 0-2 results on most of these. But I need to get another movement of the enemy unit. That way I can keep punching and forcing new units into the gap. I need to get as many units as I can into this little area right here. And it's kind of tricky to do with the way the movement and action points and the retreat rolls and so on. I could move a unit up. They fail at the roll, and then I'm done. I'm stuck, because then they can't move back out to allow another unit in to try. So I can't get another unit in here with points remaining. Notice it's got 0 movement points if I move this guy in. But he does have a 0-3 on that one. You can undo moves, by the way, as long as nothing new is discovered through the movement. So if I move this unit up and nothing on the map changes, he doesn't spot anything in the fog of war back here, anything like that, and then I decide I don't like it, I can undo it and move him back again. But notice how it's 0-2 on him for this guy. Why are they different? This guy's stronger. He's veteran, just the Daimler. Huh, he's elite. I'm not sure. 5-4, 7-4. They look exactly the same to me, except for the elite unit's going to do more or less damage than the other one. They're both going to have to stop movement, so I guess we'll go with the units showing me better numbers. Alright, let's hope we get a retreat, because oh, no, I screwed up. I should have brought this one up. Tried it, and then the other guy would have been able to move through. So yeah, I messed that one up. 50% retreat, 90-50 if we go there. Yeah, we gotta. So we got the retreat, we did not get the overrun. And now this unit is completely done. I can't move him, I can't do anything else. Oh, he can still move up. Cool. That's good. And that seals this, but we've still got this open. These guys can all still race out of the pocket. So I'm a little worried. I think this is the time where I'm going to make the call on this thing. Let's really, really, really hope we get a kill here. I don't think we're gonna. I think we're just going to suppress it at best. Yeah. Damn it. Ugh. Alright. That's not going to do me enough good, though. These guys are still going to be able to race right out of the pocket. There are some really, really... I've had a few issues with zones of control in the game where enemy units have just treated it as an optional thing on their turn and just raced right past full-strength units of mine that supposedly would exert zone of control. For example, this guy here, but I've had enemy units just go racing right on past him. I mean, he's full strength, he's not weakened. There weren't other enemy units allowing them to kind of make a pipeline like I'm making here. I just either, I'm really missing something, or I've seen just a few examples where I just absolutely could not figure out how the enemy was able to race units past my own units the way they did, so... Alright, well that decides that. So these guys are done. They're in place. Hopefully he doesn't get hammered too hard when he gets surrounded. Another consideration now is supply. So if I check supply, he is out of supply under the current conditions. So if we bump this one up. Ooh, I'd have to bump it all the way up to 4. Leave me 1 point left to manage to get him back into supply this turn. Yeah, let's do it. Alright, that'll keep him in supply. But we're down to this last one again. Who can I get into that front position? I can get him in there. So this is where I control these units, so they're my own units are allowed to pass through there. Zone of control is not going to affect my units in areas I control. So that's how I can push forward here. But I can't quite get them to obey the same rule. I can't get any infantry units up there. I can get that one up, but he wouldn't be able to attack. I need to pull this unit back so I can bring other units forward. So let's pull you back, and I think if I push him forward, attack this unit, I might get another retreat overrun. And then if I do an extended movement with this, I might actually be able to snake somebody all the way up and block these 2 spaces. That's my overriding goal now, is get these 2 spaces blocked before these guys race back out of the pocket. So let's do that. Capture some prisoners. We've got a 90-50 again. Come on, overrun, retreat! Alright. The halt, or the run has been halted. So, how many 90-50s am I going to fail this time? This is going to be really tough to accomplish in the stated goals timeline if I keep failing 90-50 rolls. Yep, he can't move any further. He's got no effective movement, no effective movement. Can't get anybody into that space there because the headquarters unit takes extra movement points to capture. None of my infantry is going to have enough points to get there. Nope. Nope. Yeah, no matter what, we're stalled. So these guys, if you watch, these guys are going to do this funky, probably going to do this funky race right on past my unit here. Maybe they'll hit it first and weaken it, and it'll look like zone of control is being obeyed. We'll see. I've had this happen before, though, and every time I get stalled like this, they just go zoom right on past. Alright, well, what to do with the rest of what we've got? Let's see. That's not a good trade-off. I don't want to do I don't want to lose armored strength against dug-in infantry like that. Without softening these guys up, these aren't going to be good odds. I could move up suppressive fire, but I got to be able to follow it up with something. How about enemy? See, they've got, unfortunately, I didn't cut off their supply line either. I didn't get to that space there. So they've got supply going right through that space. So their whole pocket, except for this guy, is still supplied. So I'm going to be one turn late on starving them out, which is a big deal. Alright. Good old 90-50 failures. Let's just move these guys around. Ugh. 1-to-1. Not trading one infantry for one tank unit. Yeah, this is just really bad. Alright, well I think we're about done for the turn. We have no extra theater assets. I'm not going to deploy. I can use this anytime, so there's no point in using it right now. I got no more units that can attack and try to force a change. These guys are done. I did everything up here. That's turn 1. See what he does. See how many units he races out of the pocket. Ah, big surprise. Ouch. See, I didn't get that kind of a result. He's reinforcing his units. Of course he reinforces his panzers. Jeez. Pulled his headquarters unit out of the pocket. Alright. So I failed, what, 3 90-50 rolls, and got only 1 point of suppression when I dive bomb that guy. But he actually destroys 2 strength points of one of my elite tank units. One of my, well, not elite skill, but one of my superpowered tank units with his aircraft. That just sucks.